All right, welcome back to the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here. Continuing coverage from the nation's capital. Special coverage here from Washington, D.C. all week. The Foxhole Freedoms, wherever you dig it, my friends. I dug it here just outside the White House, as you can see here today. I'll be at the White House, by the way, Caroline Leavitt today at 1 o'clock. Here are three big things you need to know today. Number one, Marco Rubio has announced visa restrictions on foreigners complicit in censoring Americans. That's pretty cool, actually. Number two, General Motors is dumping its EV projects altogether. It was just a matter of time. I told you this a long time ago. It's just a matter of time. General Motors could not become all electric and survive. It was not possible. You've got that happening. Plus, the markets are up. This is number three. The markets are up today because a court that I'd never heard of, the International Trade Court or something like that, intervened and interfered with Donald Trump once again. We'll be talking about that with Caroline Leavitt. Like I said, I'll be in the briefing room 1 o'clock today. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions on the courts that continue to interfere with the president's agenda. They're appealing it, but is that really the only solution they have? Can Congress help them in some way? Can they move past this? Can they give the president the help he needs? You see, because you're never going to get tariffs done if Congress has to do it. It would never get done. If tariffs had to be imposed or reduced or anything else, it would never happen, obviously, because it never did. So the president's hands are tied once again. Let's stick with the economy today. If you missed it, J.D. Vance was at a crypto conference yesterday, cryptocurrency. And I was telling you about blockchains here today earlier. I'll tell you more about that coming up. But J.D. Vance at the crypto conference says Bitcoin is hated by the Chinese Communist Party. He says there's a reason for that. Listen.
But I actually think that where Bitcoin is going is as a strategically important asset for the United States over the next decade. It's one of the reasons why President Trump, with the help of our great AI guy, David Sachs, it's one of the reasons why we started the Bitcoin Reserve, because we want to start to put in motion the strategic importance of Bitcoin for the United States government. We know that the PRC doesn't like Bitcoin. The People's Republic of China doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, we should be asking ourselves, why is that? Why is our biggest adversary such an opponent of Bitcoin? And if the Communist Republic of China is leaning away from Bitcoin, then maybe the United States ought to be leaning into Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, I kind of like that logic. I got to be honest with you. If China hates it, if the CCP hates it, maybe we should take a closer look at it. Maybe we should be liking it a lot more. That makes a lot of sense to me. When you look at the economy as a whole right now, first of all, the markets are up some this morning because a court has struck down almost all of Donald Trump's tariffs. Remarkable. No power to be the president. No leverage, no anything. Other countries can impose massive tariffs on the United States, and unless our Congress would agree to increase tariffs on those countries, nothing for the president to do here. Meanwhile, Florida, Ron DeSantis, this is kind of a surprise move here. Ron DeSantis just decided to make gold and silver legal tender. Gold and silver legal tender in the state of Florida. That tells you something too, doesn't it? Listen to what he said.
So the bill I'm going to sign today is legislation that is going to allow Florida to recognize gold and silver as legal tender in our state. And we have the ability to do that under the federal Constitution. There are only 2 states that have done it thus far. They're smaller states. We are the first large state to step up and to get this done. And this is right out of the Constitution of the United States. So this legislation will authorize money services business like check cashers or PayPal to transmit and accept payment in gold and silver. That means these precious metals can start functioning like real currency again, not just investment vehicles for the wealthy. And you notice what's happened in recent weeks and months. How has gold gone down or has gold gone up? gold's gone up big time because investors are looking at this and they're hedging against, they see the bond yields have gone up. I think they moderate a little today, but when people start seeing that, gold is a place they're going to. So it's not just an investment, it'll be something that you're going to be able to use, and it's something that is very likely to hold its value, certainly.
Yeah. So gold and silver now legal tender in the state of Florida. That's actually a very, very big deal, I think. I think that's a very big deal to the state of Florida and the people there for sure. By the way, I'm going to switch gears here for just a second because I meant to get this story in and I have not. Those are all important stories, but this might be more important. And we've got this. Where is this sound that I have? I think I've got it here. Quite sure of it. That I want to go to bite number 9 here, Anthony. Here's why. I almost forgot this. Right. Very important. The DNC Vice Chair David Hogg gets caught on camera admitting that Joe Biden did not run his White House. All right? Did not run his White House. In fact, he says it was Jill Biden's chief of staff, Anthony Bernal, that had the most influence of anyone inside the White House at that time. Listen to this.
One question for me is like, how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden? Well, the president of the United States.
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was like the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Like Joe Biden's chief of staff, like had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was like an open secret at the level. Like, I would avoid him. Like, he was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Bernal.
All right.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
Anthony Bernal. There you have that. And so I want to couple that with this other story from the watchdog group Power the Future. It's an energy group. It's a watchdog group that keeps an eye on Congress. They're pro-energy, and they're calling for an investigation into Joe Biden's auto pen signature on a number of executive orders and actions that they say he had no knowledge of. They say he had no knowledge of these things. And so people like Anthony Bernal, Jill Biden, Susan Rice, who knows, Anthony Blinken, whoever was around the president, they had somebody authorizing that auto pen. It was not Joe Biden. And that's the claim here. And so then we get into this position of what next? How do you go backwards? If these watchdog groups and the DNC's David Hogg and others say, look, Joe Biden wasn't running the place, the auto pen was being fired by people surrounding him and not Joe Biden, he was not authorizing it. What do you do going forward? What does the FBI do? What does the Attorney General do? What does this White House do? Do they work to disqualify those things that were signed by AutoPen? I don't think you have any choice but to try to disqualify those things. Maybe I'll ask Caroline about that today at 1 o'clock if I get the opportunity. We'll see what comes up in that conversation. Again, Caroline Levitt's going to have a press briefing today at 1 o'clock. Everything else is closed press today here on the White House campus. I'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show live from Washington this week. No, it's not permanent, my friends, but it is a nice place to find a lot of new connections. I'll be right back. beautiful Thursday. The weather will be decent here today. It was not yesterday. Today it's a lot better.
Check.
And
1 2 check.
all right, welcome back to the program. Nice to see you here as we get lined up here. My next guest is a man fighting for fathers in this country. It's a common theme here on this program. As you know, I've talked about America needing more fathers, more dads stepping up. Dark story for my next guest. He was just 9 months old when his father threw him across the room in a drunken rage. And today, Sean Tice travels the nation helping others who are fatherless wade through the heartbreak and disappointment of living without a dad.
He's there now.
He's joining me now. Sean, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. A tough story for you, but I've been talking about this for 15 years now. America needs more fathers, more dads, more people to step up and be that male role model for their kids, for their grandkids, for the kid down the street. Be real men. Go ahead, let the toxic masculinity flow, I say. You had a tough upbringing, obviously. Tell me about that story, that backstory I just shared with the folks.
Yeah, I grew up without a dad. My dad came home when I was about 9 months old in a drunken rage. He threw my mother and my brother and my sister out of our house, but for some reason he kept me, the little 9-month-old baby. And he had a past history of abuse. He had beat my mom up on several occasions, and it's just, it was a rough time. He actually grew up fatherless himself, and so he had a lot of demons that he carried around with himself. And because of that, he was an alcoholic, a drug addict. And so that night he came home, he took me and wouldn't let me go. And so finally the cops showed up, and eventually they demanded that my dad hand me over to them. Instead of gently handing me over, he took me and threw me across the room to the cops. And to this day, I'm glad that cop could catch. But I started that day what I call the fatherless journey, because my dad packed up his things in our small town in Pennsylvania and went back to Las Vegas, Nevada, his hometown, and never came back. And so my sister, my brother, and I, we grew up fatherless, and my mom became – no, I never saw him again. Yeah, he got on a bus and went to Las Vegas and never came back.
Well, and it's not a unique story, unfortunately. The abuse twist is a little bit different, but dads packing up and leaving, or just being incentivized by the state. Leave the house. Single mom gets more money. I mean, the government has incentivized fatherless homes in America. We've got to stop it. And this is what you do every day. You're out there every day talking about this silent crisis. Tell the folks about your organization and what you're doing to try to change the world.
Yeah, we have a ministry called God is My Dad, godismydad.com. And basically what we do is we help fatherless families through 5 different ways. We spread awareness about fatherlessness, helping people understand what's going on with it, because it's the number one social epidemic in our nation. And so we help people understand what's happening with it, educate them on it. And then we also create unique resources. We've written books and all kinds of different content for them. We have a free mobile app they can download from the Apple and Google Play Store. We start single mom support groups. You can find more out about that at godismydad.com. We speak all over the country. We've been in over 200 churches, conferences, different places, and we just have all kinds of different resources to help them. We establish local ministries, and we also partner with local churches. So those are really the 5 different things that we focus on, but our goal is to help fatherless families either through our resources or through local churches.
All right, and so how many fatherless families do you think there are in America? How many kids are growing up without a dad today that really need men to step up and be men and not be, drunks or abusers or whatever the case might be?
There's 20 million plus fatherless kids in the United States, and I think those numbers are light, honestly, because there are a ton of kids growing up without a dad in their life that they're not, counting it. They don't know for sure that it's actually happened. The parents are split up. They might not be fully divorced. Or the kids being raised by their grandparents, and it still on paper looks like the dad's involved. There's 20 million plus, and it's affecting every single one of us in the United States of America, as we see in the statistics.
So are you? I'm going to make a wild guess here, Sean. I didn't see this part, but are you a dad?
I am a dad. Yeah, I have 3 kids, and I'm trying to break the cycle in my own family. I have 2 teenage boys and a 10-year-old girl, and that's my dream, is to be a good dad.
So tell me a success story. Just tell me a story about a dad who wasn't part of the family that you've brought back into the fold. Because look, every father you save, maybe you can break this cycle of abandonment, because
Well,
that's
we
what it is, abandonment of responsibility. Go ahead.
sadly, with our ministry, we don't see a lot of dads coming back. What we do is we try to equip the kids and try to equip the mom and help them be able to overcome without that dad in place. And so what we do is we start single mom support groups, and we try to provide community to them and show them that through a personal relationship with Jesus Christ and through walking through the Bible and through having a community group, you can overcome this thing, and you can find hope through God, and then be able to go on this journey and be able to help your kids succeed. And we're seeing success rates through that. We see kids that are they're changing, they're trying to break the cycle, saying, I don't want to be like my dad when my dad walked away, or he's been incarcerated, or however he's gone, or maybe he passed away, and they want to make sure that they don't become a statistic because of that. And so we're seeing success from that, where kids are deciding, hey, I'm going to be a good dad, or I'm going to go to college and make something of myself, or start a trade, or do something with my life so that I can go down a path of success, and so that I can provide for my family and be involved. And so we see all different kinds of things like that. We started this whole thing for single moms, for this one school teacher in Las Vegas, and she was struggling, and so we started a single mom support group really for her, and we saw 30 plus single moms start connecting to this group in Las Vegas, Nevada. And so we've seen a lot of success from that, and different kids being impacted by that.
Big start. Sean Tice, really appreciate you being here. Really appreciate what you're doing in trying to make it a better world with more dads. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
There you have it. Step up, be a father. The world needs more dads. That's a fact, my friends. Talked about it for 15 years here. Sadly, the problem has not improved tremendously. We'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Yeah, General Motors, I told General Motors years ago when they made the announcement, they're going to be all EV. I said, yeah, you'll be bankrupt and gone if you try to be all EV. They started down that road, pushed and prodded by the tree huggers and the bunny lovers and the Green New Dealers. The Green New Deal was a fraud then, it's a fraud now. And General Motors, here's the headline from today. They finally got on board with what Gruber was telling them. They've abandoned a $300 million EV project and invested almost $1 billion into V8 engines. Oh, yeah, that 5.3 liter General Motors engine, that 5.3. Great engine, by the way. It's in the Suburban that we owned. And the best car we ever owned, that 5.3 liter V8 from General Motors. That's a great motor. General Motors is abandoning the plan to pump $300 million into electric vehicle production in upstate New York, and instead investing $888 million to make the latest generation of V8s. That's at the Tonawanda plant in New York. The company's saying that it plans, it's the largest single investment in an engine plant ever in Tonawanda. Second propulsion plant to produce the 6th generation of these V8s. The engines used in full-size trucks and SUVs like I own use new combustion and thermal management innovations to improve performance while reducing emissions, say the company. The investment includes new machinery, new equipment, new tools, facility renovations and builds on GM's work to boost its manufacturing facilities in recent years, including $500 million investment in its Flint engine plant in 2023 in Michigan. Congratulations to General Motors for finally figuring out, an all EV future is a future that will short circuit your entire company. This part of the program being brought to you by another genius idea, Well Connect. If you have a well in your yard and you live anywhere in the northern United States, you're halfway to a geothermal system that will save you maybe 50%, maybe 80%, maybe 90% on your utilities. Are you interested in that? Of course you are. WellConnectGeo.com. Made in Michigan, patented design. This hybrid geothermal system can save you a tremendous amount of money on your heating and cooling. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. Go to WellConnectGeo.com. WellConnectGeo.com. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you might be able to do it yourself in about a day, or just call your favorite HVAC person. They'll get it done in about a day. Check it out. WellConnectGeo.com. I'll be right back. I've been telling you this for years. It's American energy first. American energy is what makes America great. Vast quantities of cheap energy run this economy. Anything short of that, this economy would dissolve and it would fall into a disastrous place. We have to have cheap energy. We need American energy. We need a lot more of it. My next guest, Peter Roth, is a columnist and a commentator, and he also says it has to be American energy first. Peter, welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
Good to have you here. I'm very well, thank you for asking. I was just discussing General Motors just abandoned $300 million into an EV plant, and instead of putting almost $1 billion into a brand new generation of V8s. It's interesting because, years ago when they announced that they're going to go all EV, I said that's not possible. General Motors would go bankrupt if they pursued that all EV project and platform, and they almost did. Now they're coming back to reality, and that's a good thing. We need real energy. We need vehicles that have real energy. And this pursuit of solar panels and windmills is just silly. I'm sorry, but in Michigan, where I am, Peter, there's this discussion to bulldoze state forests to put in solar panels. Apparently, that's a good idea for the environmentalist green lobby. What say you?
Well, the Biden administration tried to force us into green energy. Let me say, I don't have a particular problem with solar panels or windmills or anything else as long as we're going to talk honestly about them. They're damaging to the environment. They're impossible to dispose of. We haven't even begun the conversation about what we do with all the lithium batteries that we're going to be taking out of these electric cars once they expend their usable life, because you can't bury them. They're toxic. And those kinds of energy sources don't function well unless A, they're supported by reliable fossil fuel backup, and B, without taxpayer subsidies. So, you want to put a windmill on your farm to run the well or something, hey, that's great. But don't expect me to heat my home in the winter, cool it in the summer, run my business off of a solar panel or a windmill. I need natural gas, I need coal, I need oil.
That's exactly right. You can't scale it. You can't scale. You're right. If you want to run a farm or your home, you've got a few solar panels on your roof, or you've got a small windmill out by your pond that aerates your pond and gives you some power to your grid on your home. That's fine. You can't scale it to run a city. That's what they seem to fail.
You can't run a
Right.
country. And yet we
No.
keep trying. And thanks to the energy tax credits and the Inflation Reduction Act, the key Biden legislative accomplishment, we're now subsidizing the production of things like solar and wind and biofuels for the
So
benefit
where do
of
we
other
go from here?
countries, not
I mean, the
ourselves.
fact of the matter is, energy density from hydrocarbons, oil, gas, coal, that's energy density. That moves the world. That's why China, and here's the other silly thing about all of this. Since America started down this path, we are the only country that has reduced our carbon footprint, what they apparently want from all of us. And while we have reduced coal-fired power plants, China's built one or two a week for years now, either in China or around the world. India has done the same. In fact, everything that we have done, China and India have offset. It's been a great lesson in futility, hasn't
It's
it?
been a boon for them. It's been a boon
Yeah.
for them. Cheap, reliable power for them while we're expected to sacrifice. And that's ridiculous. So, what we need to be doing is, as we're moving the one big, beautiful bill through the Senate, we need to be eliminating all of these tax subsidies that are benefiting energy production in other countries and energy production or energy consumption in other countries, and use that to do things like buy the corporate rate down to 15% so that we can have the economic boom that's just waiting to happen because we've unleashed the exploration for cheap, dependable, reliable oil, coal, and natural gas. We're bringing the next generation of nuclear power online, and we are then the edge of another productivity revolution, this time driven by AI and biotech. So it's going to be the
And
internet.
Peter, you've touched on something really important. And I want to stop you right there because you've touched on something really important. And when you talk about next generation nuclear, you're talking about modular nuclear power, which means you can have a nuclear power plant the size of a Suburban, an SUV, if you will, that can power entire cities. That's how far the technology is coming. I'm looking forward to the day you're going to have a nuclear power plant about this big, the size of a toaster, that runs my house. I mean, that's what's going to happen, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. There are physical limits. I mean, you can't repeal the law of gravity. So there are physical limits. But and I don't know if the modular
Well,
power
if we,
system is
in fairness,
5 years away or 50, but we're
if
on
we
our
did
way.
repeal the law of gravity, some court would come in and issue an injunction against it anyway. But
Yeah,
carry on.
yeah, there'd be a national injunction. I don't know
Exactly.
if those modular plants are 5 years away or 50. It depends on who you talk to. But salt reactors, module plants, things that are different from the plant in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, that almost melted down in the 1970s and basically killed the American nuclear industry, or at least kept it from expanding so that we'd be like France. France gets all its electric power from nuclear energy and they don't worry about it. They run these plants, they're big, they're large, they're dangerous, but they're safe. They're safely maintained.
Well, in Michigan, where I
Responsibly.
live, the Palisades plant is undergoing something that's never happened in America before. They're recommissioning a plant that had been mothballed and shut down about 3 years ago. And the governor of Michigan, a Democrat, Governor Whitmer, realized, I'm failing here. I mean, this idea that they're going to bulldoze a state forest and put in solar panels, as you can imagine, was met with laughter and hostility. But they're smart enough to know that they can refire this nuclear power plant and put it back online, which they're in the process of doing. The last three big plants, two in Georgia, one in Tennessee, might be the last big ones ever in this country, because I do think that modular nuclear is on the horizon, Peter.
The last big new ones. But you're right. Gretchen Whitmer figured out she can't fix the damn roads, so she's going to at least get the
Exactly.
forest. But it's interesting, that the environmentalists who are so concerned about, fish and wildlife and beetles and all kinds of other things, they turn a blind eye when you're talking about bulldozing green fields in order to put up solar panels and
Yeah,
wind fields.
it's
And
absurd and obscene.
they don't want to have the conversation about, about all the birds that get killed because they fly into windmills or they
Yeah,
cook as they
the
fly over
Cuisinart. It's the Cuisinart of birds of prey. Are these wind turbines? But if three geese die in a settling pond in an oil refinery, that oil company gets fined massively. When the windmills chop golden eagles and bald eagles in half and condors, nobody cares. Peter, I got to leave it there. I mean, people care, but the government doesn't do anything about it. You come back anytime. I appreciate the conversation, sir.
Good talking to you.
You too. Common sense in short supply, but not here. Remember, follow us on Twitter, Truth Social, Instagram, all of these places, and do it now. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the conversation. I'm glad you're here. Look, a lot of things are going on when it comes to medicine, when it comes to what's happening in the headlines, whether it's Joe Biden, and then I see COVID shots back in the headlines, and I'm like, what's going on? Time to get an expert. Dr. Joel Kahn is a preventative cardiologist and the founder of the Kahn Center for Cardiac Longevity. Doctor, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Steve.
Greatly appreciate you being here. All right, let's start with the big headlines. All right, Joe Biden. They reveal that he has prostate cancer that is metastasized to his bones. Look, you're a doctor. You work at a very high level with a lot of, well-known doctors around this country. Prostate cancer is about the easiest thing to diagnose. I know that. Everybody knows that. And yet he presents with a case that has already metastasized. It seems to me we weren't told the whole truth, Doctor. Am I just being pessimistic, or is there something that makes you go, wait a second?
Well, it's very suspicious. It has been reported that he hasn't had the basic blood test that you've had and I've had called a prostate-specific antigen, or a PSA, absolutely routine, inexpensive blood test, since about 2014, if I read that. So
that's right.
It is possible that there was a slow-growing cancer undetected. Why they didn't do the blood test with all the annual presidential physicals.
Well, let me ask you that. There's a claim out there that once you're 70 years old, they don't do prostate testing anymore. I didn't realize. Is that actually true?
There actually is a recommendation that we can drop it, because if you diagnose prostate cancer in an elderly man, it grows so slowly, the treatments are not pleasant. You're probably going to choose to just watch and wait anyways. I think there's been a big pushback. In fact, some have reported that there's been a rise in prostate cancer in older men,
right?
Since, at least advanced prostate cancer, since that change occurred. So, you can always buy a blood test, for $20 on the market. It's very easy to do. It'd be quite remarkable if he hadn't had a PSA blood test in 11 years. So it is possible, asymptomatic, boom, he gets the blood test, they feel a nodule, and he's already got, but he could have picked it up earlier, of course. The second alternative, and it's the conspiracy one, is the turbo cancer that, the vaccinations from the COVID activity may be accelerating cancer growth very rapidly because it's destroying our immune system.
Right. And possibility number 3, of course, that they did know and they didn't tell anybody. So, but let's talk about COVID for a moment here and the vaccines. Headlines are that the COVID vaccines are back this fall, and the FDA is going ahead and going to give the green light to people getting the COVID vaccine. Look, you're a cardiologist. You see what goes on. Would you recommend? Look, I'm almost 60 years old. Would you recommend a COVID shot for me?
Well, you're actually, as a very healthy 6-year-old, going to the gym with your wife, working out hard. You're actually in the document that was published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine yesterday by our new director of COVID biologics, Vinay Prasad, and our new director of the FDA, Martin Makary, and all that. I want to make sure he's not director of the CDC, but we'll give a pass on that for him. He's FDA, like I said.
Right.
That there's going to be a whole new program about evaluating COVID vaccines. So on the one hand, just that there's a conversation, and that there are some people that are not going to be advised to get the vaccine. Healthy people your age, Steve. I just passed the 66 mark, so I don't fit in the low risk group anymore. You do. It's a refreshing conversation. Also refreshing.
Well, wait a second. At 66, you're in the high risk group?
Yep. Anything over 65.
Well, let me ask you the question then. The obvious question, doctor, is would you advise people 66 years old that are healthy like yourself, obviously, to get this injection?
Well, I know it's a controversial statement, but you're a controversial guy. If you have a physician willing to treat you early and completely, should you develop symptoms of COVID, which is out there, but it's a mild disease for almost everybody nowadays, I would say no. Just get somebody that can throw in and take care of yourself. Eat well, be fit, drop the weight, get a good vitamin D level, maybe throw in some other vitamin C and others. things that might be called the McCullough preventive protocol or the FLCCC preventive protocol. There's quite a bit of data that twice a day spraying your nose and mouth with a variety of simple disinfectants as a routine is dramatically effective as a preventive. These cost pennies a day. So the answer is no. If you can develop a simple
Just
little
no. And that's what I was getting around to. I don't think that's controversial, Doctor. I think that I think most people watching this program right now would say, I'm not getting it. I mean, we were led down that garden path. We were told to get the vaccine. Right. We were told to put on masks that we knew would do nothing. Yeah. We were told to stay 6 feet apart that had absolutely no impact on anything. We were told we couldn't go to the Home and Garden Center in Michigan, right, which I know you live here, which is absolutely absurd,
we couldn't
right?
buy seeds. We couldn't buy seeds in Michigan. Crazy.
Yeah, you couldn't plant a garden.
Now, the most hopeful announcement was about 2 weeks ago, but in the Wall Street Journal, that we are expecting them to no longer recommend routine COVID shots to pregnant women and to children. But yesterday's publication left pregnancy in a gray zone because they considered pregnancy a high-risk group.
I would absolutely not do that. If I had a pregnant wife or a child that was pregnant and to have a grandchild, absolutely not would be my answer. What would be yours?
I agree with you. There's no doubt about it. And as I say, this is a murky report. They're going to require the manufacturers to do additional testing, additional randomized trials, additional outcome data. All of that's good. But did it go far enough? Is this enough of a pushback on this, I would call it unsuccessful program that we've had since December 2020?
Here's the bottom line, Doctor. The bottom line is we learned our lesson. Once burned, twice shy, is the way I feel about COVID vaccines and all of that. Dr. Joel Kahn, preventative cardiologist. You can find out more at the Kahn Center. That's Kahn. Doctor, always appreciate your insights, sir. Thank you.
Be healthy.
Be healthy, eat healthy, take care of yourself. Garbage in, garbage out. That's right. That's it. We'll take a break and be right back. righty. Well, here we are live in Washington, but you know what? There's a whole world of sports going on out there. I think the Tigers won again. You know why? They're the best team in baseball. Here's Brock Palmbush with sports.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. The Oklahoma City Thunder are headed to the NBA Finals for the first time since 2011 after blowing out the Minnesota Timberwolves 124-94 to win Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals last night in Oklahoma City and take the series 4-1. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the Thunder with 34 points and was named Western Conference Finals Most Valuable Player. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is next Thursday night in Oklahoma City. The Florida Panthers are going to the Stanley Cup Final for the third straight year after finishing off the Carolina Hurricanes 5-3 last night in Carolina to take the Eastern Conference Finals 4-1. Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk each had a goal and an assist for the Panthers, who will face either the Edmonton Oilers or Dallas Stars in the finals sometime next week. And in Major League Baseball yesterday, American League winners included Tampa Bay and Cleveland. National League winners included Miami and Pittsburgh. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
And the Tigers. The Tigers, Brock. The Tigers won.
Yes, they're a Major League best 37-20 now. They won yesterday 4-3 over the San Francisco Giants in Detroit.
But they're barely the best. There's a team that's 35-19, right?
Yeah, barely. That's about right. Yeah, but still, I mean, nobody thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good looking baseball team, isn't it? Pretty good looking baseball team.
To the surprise of many, not only locally but nationally.
To your surprise?
To many people's surprise.
Well, there you go. All right, this part of the program, thank you, Brock. This part of the program brought to you by the Wellness Company. We believe in your health. They believe it's your greatest asset. Natural supplements, comprehensive medical consultations, doctor-developed solutions designed to support your heart, immune system, overall well-being. Our daily essentials immune support formulas give you what your body needs. If you're ready to take charge of your health, join the membership program. Have access 24/7. Virtual care from experts, exclusive discounts and supplements, personalized health plans just for you. TWC.health/Gruber. Go there today and order. TWC, that's for the Wellness Company. TWC.health/Gruber. You'll save 10% on any of the great things and the great products you find at the Wellness Company. Now, when we come back, President Trump says he considered pardoning those convicted of trying to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. We'll hear from the president coming up next on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, welcome back to it. Glad you're along for the conversation. It's the Steve Gruber Show, the foxhole of freedom, right there on the south lawn of the White House this week. Fighting for you every step of the way. It's what we do. Every step of the way, fighting for freedom and having access, once again, to the White House. Very nice. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, a lot of you are angry. A lot of you are angry because nothing's been done with Doge. We'll talk about that. Number two, a watchdog group finds that Joe Biden had no idea what the executive orders were or what he was signing. I believe that. And number three, I find this pretty interesting. I'm going to be in with Caroline Levitt has a briefing today about 1 o'clock. I'll be there, of course. Maybe I'll get a question. Maybe I won't. We'll see how that plays out. But it always depends. Sometimes you get a question. Sometimes you don't. I'm going to be at the White House a lot more going forward, as I will have what they call a hard pass beginning next week. And I'll be filling in for Brian Glenn of Real America's Voice. I'm also going to be filling in for Amanda Head from Just the News. So whenever those two are out on vacation or need something or a day off, I'm going to come to Washington and fill for them. That's the plan going forward, which I'm kind of excited about. All right. But yesterday, and this is how this works. I'll give you some inside baseball here. How about that? The way it works is you have a pool camera every day, and that's usually one of the major networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, one of those, CNN sometimes. And then you have a secondary pool. Sometimes that's Real America's Voice, but not too often. So the pool camera and their group always goes in, and then there's a group of people that can go in. Not everybody gets in every day. I didn't make it in yesterday. If something happened in the Oval Office today, I might make it in. It just depends on the day. And so there's always a pool feed. So the networks are never shut out. We always have access to the pool feed. That's the whole point of it. You have a pool camera that can provide all the material and the questions and so forth, but your reporter may or may not make it into the room on some days, and that's kind of the way this has been working. So yesterday, President Trump has an event and swears in Judge Jeanine Pirro, right, to be a prosecutor, a federal prosecutor. And she's sworn in by Pam Bondi, but he steps up, he takes a few questions. And one of the questions he took has to do with the people convicted of allegedly trying to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer here a few years ago. You of course, heard this whole story. The FBI, a lot of people say it was a setup. Folks that defended these folks said it was a setup. They got drunk. They said stupid things. Well, here's what Donald Trump said about it yesterday in the Oval Office. Listen.
Go ahead, please. Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. You know, they were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded, and probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead.
Entrapment. You know, a lot of people think that they were entrapped. Yes, they got drunk. They said stupid things. You know, oh, we're going to do this anyhow. He's looking at it. I did ask the Great Lakes Justice Center yesterday about the 15 alternate Electoral College voters that are still being pursued and charged for allegedly breaking the law for presenting an alternate slate of electors back in 2020. Most of these people are in their 70s and 80s, never committed a crime in their life, and yet they're being pursued by the Attorney General, Dana Nessel. They cannot be taken out of harm's way by the president in that particular case. Also, by the way, in the Oval Office yesterday, Donald Trump was asked about Israel. And has he told Israel, and I've talked about this, and I brought this up, and so I'm glad the question was asked, because I've been talking about this for a week, saying Israel's probably being told, do not attack Iran right now. Do not. We're making progress on talks to get rid of their nuclear arsenal, to make sure they don't have nuclear weapons. We're making progress. Do not attack them right now. The question came up in the Oval Office yesterday. Here's what he said.
Ron, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Sanctions.
I did, yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did
I
you
just
caution
said
him?
I don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now. Because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Two ways of doing it. Yeah, I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal, and if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
Make a deal, save a lot of lives. The warning is there to Iran. The warning is clear to Iran. You need to abandon your nuclear arsenal. You need to get rid of that nuclear arsenal and join the League of Civilized Nations. You're never going to be allowed to have nuclear weapons, Iran. Never. Donald Trump has been clear about that for some time. By the way, speaking of that, Donald Trump has been saying that Joe Biden was not up to the job, and a lot of questions about the auto pen. Well, a watchdog group has also come to the same conclusion. Power of the Future is a nonprofit watchdog group that watches the energy industry, and they're reviewing and renewing a call for an investigation because they say Joe Biden has his name by way of auto pen on a whole host of executive orders and actions and memos that he was not aware of. That he was not aware of. You see, the auto pen is legal if the person whose signature is being simulated authorizes that signature, consents to that signature. I would argue Joe Biden couldn't consent to anything. The Robert Hur report made clear he is an elderly man with a poor memory. I think it was far worse than that, by the way. Far worse. He was an elderly man with dementia, is what I really believe. We'll let you know how that plays out as we go forward. This part of the program brought to you by my good friends at My Pure Health Solutions. It's a weight loss plan that does not include pharmaceuticals. It's a weight loss plan that is a custom plan for you. It's a weight loss plan that relies on real food and the cycles and frequencies of your body. The weight loss plan for you would be different than the weight loss plan for me. I did it 7 years ago. It worked fabulously. And now you can try it. You can lose 20 to 50 pounds in 40 days. No exercise needed. And right now, my listeners save $200 off the package. So now is the time to sign up. Get ready for summer anywhere in America. Anywhere. Don't have to visit the office. Go to gruberhealth.com. gruberhealth.com and get started on a weight loss journey that's real, not created by pharmaceuticals. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. I've spoken for years about how to reduce your energy cost. And there's an invention from a University of Michigan engineer. If you live anywhere in the northern United States and you have a well in your yard, you're halfway to having a hybrid geothermal system that can save you tremendous amounts of money on your heating and cooling. It's been around for a number of years. It's been used by hundreds, now thousands of homeowners, certainly in Michigan where it originated, but now it's available all over the country. If you're a do-it-yourself kind of person, you can put in a well connect probably in about a day. And if you don't want to do it yourself, well, get your local HVAC folks. They'll do it for you as well. Joining me now is Tim Schultz. He's from Well Connect. Tim, thank you for being here.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Look, the Well Connect, I think your father invented this machine. Basically, you use the well in your yard. If you have a well in your yard and you're in the northern United States, I don't care if you're in Maine or New Hampshire, Michigan or Montana, if you have a well in your yard, you're halfway to having a hybrid geothermal system. Now, this system does not replace your furnace. It does not replace your air conditioner, but it basically takes the load off from them, right? It takes the load off, and therefore you save a tremendous amount of money in your utility bills. Just give us a quick overview of how this works. I mean, it's ingenious and it's patented.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Steve. Yeah, so instead of conventional geothermal removing the home's existing system, we kind of apply the 80-20 rule, right? So the system that's already in your home's working fine. It's just expensive to heat with propane, heating oil, or electric. So instead of removing that good operating system, we said, hey, that's sized for the few cold days a year and therefore oversized and inefficient, kind of like building the church for Easter Sunday. We said, let's put in the right size machine for what it's like the vast majority of the days. And by doing that, we didn't come up with the idea of using a well for geothermal. That's been around for many decades. But our approach requires 75% less water flow rate. And therefore, the 13 million wells in the country are candidates to become a free renewable energy source for rural homeowners. And so our system's an add-on, therefore the cost of installation is dramatically less, typically a one-day project. So it really, you add this to your existing system and you've increased your efficiency by like 500%. So an 80% furnace now becomes a 400% geothermal system. But you've got the best of both worlds. Your heating oil or fuel oil, propane is still there for the very,
Right.
very coldest days. But most of the time you're heating with very low cost earth energy.
Right. And you've told me this, we've talked about this in the past, Tim. Even if you finance the system, your savings are so dramatic for almost everybody. And you've got well over 1,000 systems in Michigan. You got systems all over the country now. If you finance a system, your savings are so dramatic that it offsets your payment. It's so, I mean, you're money ahead from day one, right?
I'd say that's the biggest difference with our system is there's other great technologies. We're big fans of closed loop geothermal. The air source heat pumps are very popular, but only a well connect will immediately provide the savings that overcomes the upfront cost. And that's because it's such a low cost starting point for ours. Biggest savings, lowest upfront cost. This only puts money in your pocket. People say, what's it cost? It literally is putting money in your pocket year one and every year forward. So we really found this niche of the best bang for the buck.
Right. It's an American-made product, which I also like tremendously. It's Michigan-made, so people want to buy American and have American technology and know-how and ingenuity. Here it is, all wrapped together. Now, having said that, I know a lot of folks are pretty motivated by the one big beautiful bill. Maybe one downside of that bill is that there are subsidies out there being offered by the federal government for going green, if you will, like your system does. It's an environmentally responsible system. Some of those incentives may be going away. We don't know for sure yet, but if they do, now is the time you'd want to get in and make sure you get whatever incentives are available this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So between now and the end of the year could be the best time ever to do this. I wanted to say though, in 2017, those incentives went away and we kept right on humming. So because we're designed to be low upfront cost and still generate significant savings, we can work through with or without that credit. I'm not going to pretend that it doesn't help, but we expect to be going strong here, even if that does go away. The industry
And
as
I
a whole.
appreciate that. I guess what I'm saying to people is this: if you're considering this as an idea,
Yep.
jump now, because maybe the incentives are there, maybe they're not. Well Connect is still going to be a genius system that saves people a tremendous amount of money, regardless of whether they are there or not. But hey, look, if there's some more incentive available, why wouldn't you just do it now? I guess is what I'm saying, Tim.
Couldn't agree more. And as you probably hear, the government's at its finest. I say it's now requiring these new refrigerants, and that adds adding cost to future systems. So today, again, is the time to act. And if you have an operating system, that's fine. Just add this, and it's a significant upgrade that pays for itself. If you need a new air conditioner or furnace, then this is a real no-brainer just to put this in instead of the old technology. So, yeah.
Yeah. I told people last year I had a problem with an air conditioner. It had a leak, and they came out and they said, well, we can still use whichever coolant it was. I don't remember the name of it. And we still can use this. It's $10 a pound, but next year it's going to be $120 a pound. I said, well, what would that cost to recharge my system? He said, about $2,000. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, $2,000
Amen,
anyhow. So now is the time. Here's what I tell people to do. WellConnectGeo.com. It's WellConnectGeo.com. If you have a well in your yard, you're almost there to having a hybrid geothermal system. Doesn't remove your furnace, doesn't remove your air conditioner, but it does remove a tremendous amount of the cost, and the incentives are still there right now. So if it's something you're considering, I would suggest getting a hold of Tim and his team at WellConnect. Again, it's WellConnectGeo.com. Tim Schultz, thank you as always.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
It is a great system. Everybody I talk to that has it loves it. Telling you, WellConnectGeo.com. I love supporting American companies. Michigan company here, Michigan made. Do you want to save 80% on your heating and cooling? Of course you do. All right, WellConnectGeo.com. I'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show. All right, here is a story. Here is a story from Harvard. More trouble for Harvard, but this story really is something. Harvard has revoked the tenure of a professor that was making more than $1 million a year. $1 million a year to be a professor of business administration. Accused is Francesca Gino of data fraud. Data fraud, she's accused of. She's been fighting the allegations for 4 years, according to the Harvard Crimson, the paper there. The paper says Gino was well known for studying honesty and ethical behavior before she was accused of manipulating observations to support her hypotheses. This is the first time it's occurred in recent decades, said a Harvard spokesperson. Prior to losing academic protection, Gino fought for 2 years to keep her position at the Ivy League school. In 2018 and 19, she was the 5th highest paid employee at the school, receiving more than $1 million a year in 2018, 2019. I mean, that's a lot of money to be a professor, isn't it? Seems like it to me. She authored over 140 papers, won numerous awards prior to coming under scrutiny by scholars who questioned her data in a series of blog posts published on Data Colada. In 2021, We and a team of anonymous researchers examined a number of studies co-authored by Gino because we had concerns that they contained fraudulent data. We discovered evidence of fraud in papers spanning over a decade, including papers published quite recently in 2020. The blog's authors shared their concerns with the Harvard Business School in the fall of 2021. Gino filed a lawsuit against the blog authors in Harvard, according to The Hill, with parts of the lawsuit still ongoing. She last publicly declared her innocence on her website. I did not commit academic fraud. I did not manipulate data to produce a particular result. I did not falsify data to bolster any result. I did not commit the offense I am accused of. Period, she wrote. I guess we'll find out. And look, $1 million in compensation? Ha! If you didn't commit fraud, it is well worth fighting for, now isn't it? Absolutely it is. Special week this week as I'm reporting to you live from Washington, D.C. Glad to be here, by the way. I'll be over at the White House here a little bit later for Caroline Leavitt's briefing. That'll happen, I'm told, at 1 o'clock. I'll keep you informed right here on the Steve Gruber Show. And don't forget, tomorrow is Free for All Friday. Your chance to call in on the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline and make a comment or ask me a question. It's all on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, welcome back to it. It is a busy day here, as they all are, in Washington, and enjoying my time here. A lot of great restaurants, by the way, and entertaining things to see. Not the junkie that was passed out on my sidewalk right in front of my Airbnb, but that was entertaining. Don't worry, I got pictures. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? Back in Michigan, State Representative Jamie Thompson is working on bill. I can't even believe we have to have this conversation. It is, to me, just remarkable. But we have to have the conversation about keeping men out of women's sports. This conversation should have lasted about 5 seconds once, and it's dragged on for years. Something about inclusivity and DEI and other such nonsense. Men that have the idea that they're women do not belong in the ladies' room. They do not belong competing on the women's track team or swim team or dive team. I'm sorry, they don't belong there. This is simple stuff, folks. It's not hard. In fact, it's easy for Democrats too. Jamie Thompson, now with me on the program in Michigan, she's putting together bills 4066, 4469, which would prohibit men from competing in women's sports. Jamie, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for so much for having me. Yeah, we actually presented those bills in our Government Operations Committee. They passed out of that. We put them on the House floor for a vote, and unfortunately, it was a party line vote. It's really sad to see.
Isn't that remarkable? I mean, so wait a second. Don't Democrats have daughters too, or can they not define a woman? Or
when you talk with them, one-on-one, they will tell you they don't agree with it. The problem is that they can't follow their moral compass to spite their face because they're so afraid of their far left activist donors and the ones.
But wait a second. This is an 80-20 or a 90-10 issue. It's not even a close call for anybody. You do any polling on this? Look, if you went to the deepest, darkest blue state, a state like Massachusetts, and you put it on the state ballot, do you think that men should compete in women's sports? It would lose 80-20 or worse. Democrats don't even believe this hogwash. So why are we even having to go through this ridiculous exercise?
We shouldn't have to be. We should not have to be. And girls should not be getting hurt in high school athletics.
Agreed.
And we wouldn't even be here if the High School Association in Michigan would change the laws or their policies in the place that they do. And they are not doing that. So we as the legislator had to step in and say, okay, we're changing the laws and forcing you to change your policy.
So you think the Michigan High School Athletic Association, the Michigan High School Athletic Association, the MHSAA, is failing the student athletes that are women in the state of Michigan?
Yes, I do.
It's embarrassing. How can it's a very simple thing? And by the way, it's also federal law. Now, Maine and California are going to take this all the way to the mat, apparently, and they're going to lose because they're going to lose. Several states have already banned men and women's sports. But how dumb, Jamie, that we even have to waste our time having a conversation. Could you even imagine 10 years ago having this conversation, or when you were growing up?
No, I couldn't. No, Steve, I could not. And I was thinking about that this morning. How did we get here? It seems like COVID and the Biden presidency and the women that have been pushed aside for a false narrative of women empowerment has become a game almost to the Democrats. And we're tired of playing pretend. We're no longer playing pretend. It's not about your feelings. It's about the real science that is harming our girls and is harming our boys, frankly. The continual
the way I remember it, Title IX, wasn't it pushed by what we would call more liberal people back when it was pushed through, right? People that were more progressive at the time pushed through Title IX. Now they don't even care about that. If you're a man, you got a mental illness, by God, use the ladies' room. If you're a guy who thinks you can, add and subtract your genitalia, by God, use whatever restroom you want. You can't add and subtract, all right? You can't. You can't cut one thing off or slap one thing. It doesn't work that way, does it?
No, it does not. And the fact of the matter is that there are girls that are getting hurt in these sports because boys and men are designed differently.
In fairness, there are a lot of kids that are being hurt permanently by disfiguring surgeries, by powerful chemicals that are being introduced into their bodies, making them permanent people when it comes to life-altering medications and surgeries. I mean, they become patients for life. There's no way around it.
I'm really glad you brought that up because most people do not understand the reality that when these children go through these changes, this permanently sterilizes them. Meaning
That's right.
that child will never be able to conceive a child as a woman or as a man. and you're permanently disfiguring them. It is very toxic on their body. It affects their joints. It affects their organs. They're constantly on medication. They are at a higher risk of dying at an earlier age. There's so much studies that are now being done that are coming forward that it is not good for these children to be to push this narrative on them. And thank God for the parents now that are going to the school boards and are arguing back and saying that this is not the appropriate sex education that you're teaching our children. We're not going to stand for it. You're not in compliance with the law. That has been the struggle here in Michigan. Are these school districts that are promoting this woke gender ideology and keeping things from parents, is it breaking Michigan state law, or do we need new laws? I would argue we do not need new laws. The laws are there. They just must be followed. So we as parents and as legislators and leaders in the state of Michigan must stand up and start speaking out to protect our girls and our boys.
No question. And again, this is what Title IX was all about, Jamie. The law is already there.
Mm-hmm.
The law is already there. So I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't know even what they're trying to prove by any of this. Now, you did get one Democrat vote somewhere along the line. I see in the notes here.
It was a little strange. It was a yes on one of them. So it was a two bill package. One of them banned biological boys from high school sports on girls' teams. And then the other bill had to amend the Elliott Larson Act to allow for it to be constitutional to do so. And I am not sure which one Representative O'Neill, a Democrat, voted yes on. I think it was the banning from the sports, but not on the amendment. They were tie-barred together. Both had to be done. And it's interesting that there was some Democrat representatives that did not show up that day to vote. Now they are not.
Democrats, they have polling
vote.
companies too, don't they? I mean, they have
Absolutely.
polling companies, same as you do.
Mm-hmm.
How do they not understand this is such an easy decision? This is such an easy choice. We're so polarized, though. You know, we're on our little tribes, and our tribe believes that we fly the pride flag. Okay, I've got friends that are gay and lesbian. They don't have any idea what this is about. They reject it. They want nothing to do with this transgender idiocy. And one friend of mine says she did not fight for this, and she was in pride marches and everything. She said, "This is not what I fought for. It's not at all what I fought for when I fought for LGBT rights." Right? Anyhow, Jamie, I'll leave it there. I hope this gets to the Senate, but I'm going to guess, you know, the Senate's controlled by Democrats. It won't even get a hearing on the floor because they're afraid of casting the vote. You know, if we could just get on a ballot, we'd have it figured out. I'm telling you. Jamie Thompson, always appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's such an easy call. It is just so easy. Anyhow, I'm going to take a break. I'll be back after this. Buenos dias, my friends. Welcome back. See, they talk me. We're learning Spanish around here. We got a little bit more than that. I'm going to get it down so that I can say, here is Senora Ivy. I'm going to figure out these words. Ivy, you look lovely today. I haven't seen you in person in a number of days, and I kind of miss you. I'm not going to kid you.
Oh, I miss you too, Steve. Very nice to
You
see
bet.
you as well.
How was your birthday?
It was great. It was a wonderful day. Thank you.
Yeah. I hear Anthony helped me out, get some flowers on the table. Thank you for that, Anthony, by the way. And the kids circled around and showered you with love and presents, and so did Sister Sarah and your niece and all that, right?
Did you spoil yourself, Mrs. Gruber?
I think that'll have to wait for this weekend. Too many things to do, but yes, when you're a business owner, the business owns you. So even on your birthday, don't get to go have as much fun as you'd like.
Well, she means by
Just the
that,
way of
Brock,
the
is she's a workaholic. She's a workaholic. But she likes to work. Don't get me wrong. She works a lot. Anyhow, Ivy, you look great today. What's on your mind?
Have you heard at all this undercover David Hogg Project Veritas
Oh, yeah.
video?
Yeah,
And,
we played that in the first hour.
Okay, you did play that today. Got it. Well,
right, but you can play it again because for anybody that missed it, it's wow.
Yeah, if you want to go with that, Anthony, let's hear it.
Did we want to do the soundbite?
That works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steve, do you recall which bite that was?
Just play the video I sent you then, Anthony.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
Number 9, if there it is.
Okay.
It's 9, Anthony, if you want to jump on that, but here it is.
Off the record, of course.
Foundational question for me is how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden? Well, the president of the United States.
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be like a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress you enough.
Joe Biden's chief of staff, had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was an open secret.
Yeah, that guy, Anthony Bernal.
Yeah.
So stop right there. Here's what he's saying here, and we did play this earlier, and it's fascinating and frightening all at the same time because what he is saying. David Hogg is the vice chair of the DNC, controversial to say the least. But he says that Joe Biden wasn't running anything.
The vice chair, right?
I think he still is. I don't think they forced him out yet. They're working on forcing him out. So he's in hot water with the DNC for suggesting there should be primaries for people he doesn't agree with. Right. But he's saying that Joe Biden didn't run anything. This chief of staff, who I'd never heard of, Anthony Bernal, Jill Biden's chief of staff, was doing a lot of the puppeteering, I guess. And then there's another guy off camera. I'm not sure who's off camera talking to David Hogg, obviously another DNC operative, saying he was scary, this guy. They were all afraid of him.
Interesting. Yeah, well, that just tells me that it wasn't, maybe it was probably Jill Biden running the show through him, chief of staff.
You remember when she sat there and ran a cabinet meeting, and Joe wasn't available, right? And now you know that even members of his cabinet didn't see him from mid to late 2023, didn't see him at all. Even when they tried to get meetings, they didn't see the guy.
Yeah, it's just a scary. I mean, looking back on it, I think all of us who were digging into the issue knew. We even talked about who's actually running the White House.
Right, we talked about a lot here.
Those who were honest in the media were talking about this issue. Of course, you have, CNN and NBC and all these other news just covering for him.
And then Jake Tapper comes out.
Oh my gosh, we just didn't know. Yeah. Okay, BS, you actually did know.
Of course, no. It was obvious to anyone that cared to look. Any honest person could see it. Jake Tapper now out with this book, Original Sin. Oh, we had no idea. We were lied to. Oh, please. We talked about it here on this program for years. We talked about it from the day that he walked in the White House.
Yeah, just observing him, listening to the way that he speaks, knowing that he had to have a prompter for everything. He couldn't even recall people's names during press conferences when there were a few.
He called on people that were dead.
Right.
I mean, come on.
And so that is just for those of us who have, many of us deal with either older grandparents or older parents. Sure. And, sometimes in my situation, my grandmother has dementia and Alzheimer's. Yeah. So I can kind of relate to what he was, the way that he was behaving. So it wasn't to, I think many of Americans out there watching him was like, okay, something is wrong. And I just don't understand why.
This is why they didn't have him out after about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, sunsetting, right? Isn't that what they call it? He didn't even recognize, we know now, George Clooney. He goes to that fundraiser in California where Barack Obama has to walk him off the stage. He doesn't even recognize George Clooney.
Right.
I mean,
and
who's more
actually,
recognizable
George
on the
Clooney
planet?
even has come out and said, it was that moment in time when I realized that we had a problem.
George, we all
Or
realized it long
we-
before that.
Right, exactly. So interesting though, Alzheimer's, there's been a groundbreaking new scan that you can detect symptoms years before you're actually, diagnosed. So this is the thing.
Wait. Ivy sends me for lots of tests. Is this next on my horizon?
No, actually, I think that when you have a family member that has this disease, you, just like any other disease, you do get concerned about it, whether it's,
Sure.
cancer runs in your family or Alzheimer's runs in your family. And actually, I don't think that it is a genetic issue as much as it is an environmental issue. Personally, that's my opinion. But Alzheimer's is a disease of midlife. And so the way that your recall and things like that happen in midlife are big determiners on what you're going to have when you're older in life. So
Right.
There's a lot of new studies coming out, and there's a lot of new research that's being done. And this is this one scan that has just come out. Kind of is able to tell you, hey, you have these precursors for Alzheimer's.
So you can find out early. That's good news. I got to leave it there, Ivy.
Okay.
You look great. Miss
Thank
you.
you.
Love you.
I miss you and love you too. Looking forward to seeing you.
There you go. We'll be right back. All right. Well, it has been an interesting week thus far. I'll be over at the White House. Caroline Levitt giving a briefing, I believe, at 1 o'clock today. I'll be sharing that on America's Voice Live at 3 o'clock, live from the South Lawn there on Pebble Beach. Tomorrow, Donald Trump headed to Pittsburgh to discuss $14 billion of investment from Nippon Steel into U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel will retain its name. I'll be traveling with the president to the event in Pittsburgh tomorrow, so I'll have full coverage of that for you tomorrow as well, and I'll talk to you about that on Monday. It'll be the first time I'm on Air Force One. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard a lot of good things about it. People on their to-do list. It's on my to-do list, and we have made the cut, apparently, for tomorrow. Although that's always subject to change. Things change, events happen. But right now we're on the schedule to have that happen. We'll be traveling with the president over to Pittsburgh. And obviously, this is a big deal for Pittsburgh, for the whole state of Pennsylvania. And the reason being is it's a swing state, could bring as many as 70,000 jobs. This deal could, $14 billion of investment, 70,000 jobs according to some estimates. But even if it's 10 or 15 or 20,000 jobs, that's a remarkable achievement. And the people of Pennsylvania will remember that. Look, it's the most important of the swing states because it has the most electoral college votes. And so having an investment like this, reinvigorating steel for the production of automobiles and bridges and military equipment and you name it. Steel is in all the critical structures of all these different things, and steel is the backbone of America. So to have Andrew Carnegie's company, U.S. Steel, reinvigorated with Japanese investment, by God, I'm all for it. And you should be as well. So we're looking forward to that coming up tomorrow. So far, a great week. Remember, tomorrow is also Free for All Friday here in the program. You can call in on the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline. Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.